guys, this is Dandilion Song. So I wanted to talk about a few things that I found having to do with dates that might be important here in a few days in predictive programming in this Simpson episode, which I've already introduced to you. So in this part, the family has been abducted by Rigellians, and Marge says, "Oh, you speak English," and he says,
"I am actually speaking Rigellian. By an astonishing coincidence, both of our languages are exactly the same."
Well, what are you going to...
Okay, so right at the 101 mark is where he says the word Rigellian, and I just want you to notice that that's an 11 gateway number with 2 zeros in the middle. I don't know if you noticed that. I just let him finish his statement. But Rigellian, the way I looked on their wiki to see how they spell it, so at the top I have the correct spelling. I'll show you that in a minute, but I want to show you that it equals Elohim in the simple and the English gematria. So that's very interesting, having to do with the idea of ancient astronaut theory, and that Elohim were actually referring to Anunnaki, and that Anunnaki did eat humans, because this whole episode is about humans being used as slaves but also as a food source. So let's scroll up here. I wanted to show you this gematria of Rigellian. Now he says, Rigellian, by astonishing coincidence, Rigellian and English are the same language. So I could look up astonishing coincidence. I bet you it has interesting numbers. But Rigellian, the way of the spelling, first of all, I didn't spell it right when I worked it out by pen on my paper here. Although I did have some interesting notes about that, even though I didn't have the spelling right. But I looked in their wiki to see how they spell it. So it's probably really noteworthy to say that there is a 9/11 here in the Jewish gematria of Rigellian, and we should look to see the other Jewish associations, including NATO, Engineer, Mein Kampf. I wanted to show you this one, Phi and Pi, since I've been talking a lot about these numbers. So if you believe there's no slop in the code, which I believe, this right here is really one of the core intersections of the math religion and the date and sacrifice foreshadowing and the crossing over of the dates, because you can see 923 as a derivative of the Julian 9/11, right? Those are reflexive on those are mirrors of each other on those calendars as that calendar conversion, and then 10/6, which is coming up in a few days, and 923 are derivatives of each other. Not equally, because it goes in one direction. Julian to Gregorian, 923 goes to 10/6, and we have seen lots of 106s, so this becomes very relevant. And so I've been talking about this. If you haven't seen my other two videos or recent, this is your first video. Zachary K. Hubbard is the one, I think, who broke that. I don't know how many people think it's as important as I do, that 1006 is an equivalent of 923 on the Julian Gregorian calendar conversion. And then also, because I've been studying these events this whole summer, and so has Zach, we both know that 106 has been sprinkled everywhere, and we didn't know what it was. We just kept noticing it. So now we think it's a date. So then when you see a 9/11, just by a second derivative, it actually equals October 6th. And there are a lot of time diameter confirmations that 1006 is an important date, and I've showed you some of those in recent videos here, even having to do with The Simpsons. I know The Simpsons seems kind of silly, but they have like 6 or 7 guest writers on these. They have extreme code in their placement code. Dabu 7 has shown that they have predicted national flags. They've predicted the future by 15 years. So we need to pay attention. We need to, it might be too late to pay attention, but in case it's not too late, we need to pay attention to at least the code, at least figuring out what do they mean and can we predict anything. So this episode, the reason why I picked this episode is that it's the please go back and see the intro. Actually, I'll just save that for the intro. Please go back and see the intro that I put up on why I picked this episode and some of the diameter of time findings that I found having to do with Simpsons in general, but also this episode, which makes me think that the symbolism in this episode is date predictive. So these guys are abducted. Okay, so let's go back to the episode here. So because he says in that gateway moment, the 10:01, which would have been October 10th, if you look at that in terms of a date. Now, just to be thorough, the anti-date of October 10th is April 1st, which is April Fool's Day. So that's just something to remember. I'm not sure what the application or symbolic meaning of that would be. However, on October 1st, there was the shooting in Umpqua, Oregon, and it shares this gematria. 7444 shares it in the English and the simple gematria with Oregon. It also shares it with Lucifer, and Oregon in the Jewish gematria has a 232, and Lucifer has a 323, which is another inversion that I want to bring to you in a separate video just to draw an underline because I think it's important. Now the 323 heading is embedded and encoded in the building, in the community college building. Please go see my video on that. So anyway, English equals Rigellian according to these people. So I decided, well, let's go look, let's dig a little deeper, just make sure we know everything we need to know about this. Now we know that most people who would watch my channel would know that World Trade Center 1, World Trade Center 2, and the Freedom Tower are mapped out in a Orion belt type of idea. So what we would need to do is find out where Rigel was on that map. The other map that I know of there's quite a few Orion maps. There's the Great Pyramid map, but also there's another map in Paris, what I call the Solar Man, and on his belt is also Orion, and also he has the belt of Orion, but he also has Orion going up his spine on that picture. And if this is your first video with me, I've done a lot of work in Google Earth, and it's quite astonishing. So if you have time, please set up a playlist and familiarize yourself with the Google Earth videos that I have, things that I have discovered, which I am going to say that 99.99% of people don't realize. Only the insiders know about those, and I am not an insider, I just found it. Okay, this is a picture I pulled up from Google Earth, and I mean Google Images, and it's a little out of focus, but it has the Orion Nebula and the belt, and this is from Scott on Scott, it's Secrets in Plain Sight, and it has so he has a blog, a great, wonderful blog, and so he places Rigel over here. So we're going to take a look at this. Alright, so I finally got this to overlay here. Let me show you how I overlaid it. I'm not sure if I have this right, but I'm going to, if it's different from Scott on Scott's, I'm going to question, because everything that I have to lay down here on the Google Earth, I have to put in mirror. And when I first laid this down without putting it in mirror, it didn't line up. So I want to show you, I usually put this in an absolute altitude with 190, and that means, that makes it so that you can come down below it and you can see, you know, what you need to see. So, and then some transparency here. So this is the mirror version of it. That's why everything's written backwards. Well, everything that I put, whenever I put anything on Google Earth, I have found that it's, oops, oh please go on there, that it's not accurate until you put it in mirror. So I'm not going to say that that's going to, you know, that's 100%. It's just that I found it to be 100% so far. So if Scott didn't put his in mirror, I'm not sure if he did it right. Although I respect his work, and he's really smart. So, whoops, wrong thing. So this is quite a challenge if you've ever done this, because you have to adjust your thing, and then you don't know whether you have your proportions right. Well, anyway, so I'm using this map as my proportions, so you can see there's the World Trade Center 1 and World Trade Center 2 and the Freedom Tower. So this is the arm. The Freedom Tower is on this arm of Betelgeuse, and this World Trade Center 1 is on this arm that has Rigel over here. This is where Rigel is. Now, one thing that makes me think I might have did this right is that it's right on City Hall. Rigel is City Hall, and these guys are basically our rulers, right? These are the Elohim. These are the Watchers, the judges, the referees. If you haven't seen my I may have an unlisted blog where I put videos, and I have a Nefertiti blog about Watchers and referees and the colors, how they wear black and white. That's the Freemason number. They don't, and then it's symbolic of all of our sports, everywhere, that the teams wear colors and the referees don't. I'm going to try to get my alignment back. Let me pause this while I try to get this. All right, I'm going to lay this down. Just call it good. It might be a little bit off, but I think we get the gist of it. I think this is Rigel. I'm going to go back and see. Gosh, there's a lot of stuff I want to see, but let's look at Scott's picture. Well, to me, it kind of looks like he does put Rigel. Well, it's hard to see because there's no directions on here, but it does look like he might have. Let me look and see. All right, well, I think I have a different place for Rigel than he does. But the reason why I think mine is right is the mirror image that I told you, and then also this alignment. Whoops, I want to measure this. So we're going to take a rough heading here. This is going to be rough because it's a little bit curved. But it looks like a 256 heading going that way. I'll just take a parallel 70, 75. This could be a 74. Since, do you see how rough this is, right? So this is 74. Okay, so this is their God heading. This has to do with what we just saw, Oregon, 74, 44, 444, the Lucifer connection having to do with the Google Earth alignments over there. I'm going to say I put Rigel in the right place. Let's look at the Brooklyn Bridge alignment here. You know, wouldn't they put Rigel on the corner of God, which is 74? You see this, right? I wish I could pop up my my magnifying glass for you in case you're farther away, but it makes me dizzy using that magnifying glass. Let's look at this. Let's take this to the dome here. 319, 16. It's not purely for the Brooklyn Bridge. Let's 316, 316.6. Let's go the other way. So I want to point out that the Brooklyn Bridge is a BB. It's 134. Let's see, I'm not doing this. Okay, 136. That is that's a number I've seen recently. Oh well, anyway, I want to point out that the Brooklyn Bridge is a BB, which is a 2-2, but it's also a 13-13 because the B doubles for a 13 because of the way that it's written as a squished together 1 and 3, which makes it also double for a 13-13. And that has to do with Georgia Guidestones because they have the MM there, which is a 13-13, and they also have the number, the cube that was taken out, 816, which is the phi, which is the first 3 digits of phi, which they flash it as forwards and backwards for different meanings. Now, but in the Dylan Stormroof and the timestamp when he's entering the building for his hoax event, he's wearing full armor, like, you know, thousands of dollars worth of armor that someone who's unemployed can't buy. And anyway, that was all on the Homeland Security website, so that is for sure a drill. But anyway, on the timestamp that they put up for the sheep, they wanted you to see the clues because they try to make it somewhat obvious so that you have a chance of seeing the clues. This is why they put tweets out that happen before the event. They want to give you a fighting chance. Well, anyway, on the Dylan Stormroof, they put a 1313 gateway on, and then they put the 816 numbers in the middle for the time. And so whenever you see a 1313, it just ties into everything having to do with the Georgia Guidestones. Now, the Georgia Guidestones to the Washington Monument and continuing on to this place where we are, Freedom Tower, is exactly a 44-degree heading, which is a kill clock time heading. Now you can see it's a little annoying. Looks like my lines that I've drawn have slipped off target, and this seems to happen sometimes with Google Earth. So anyway, you have to get your screenshots in your videos because sometimes those lines move around later. Well, I'm going to say that this is Rigel right here, City Hall Park Path, and let me show you. Oh my goodness gracious! Let me show you the coordinates in your lower right-hand corner down here. I'll show you down here. I'm going to have to move my cursor back though, so you're going to have to keep looking in the lower right-hand corner to see the coordinates here. So this City Hall is at 40, 42, 48. 25. Make sure I'm on here perfectly to the dome. And then on the other coordinate is 74. So that tells me that I got this heading right, the other heading that I talked to you about. And then you can see that it's very touchy all around. I'll zoom in a little more on this dome right here. But it looks like 19.95. Now I've talked recently. I've done some back to the books segments where the 199 number comes up. 166 is the number of Vitruvius Man, and 199 is another important number. Let me look at this heading here. I'm going to pause it. So you can see they did this kind of in the shape. You know, they have some geometries in here. So the 121 heading coming from here, which you can't see because it's embedded within the building. They won't let you set the altitude of your ruler, so that's why you lose it through mountains and tall buildings. So you have to just draw it out, and since the distance doesn't matter too much, I'll show you how this is. You draw it out like this. Oh, I went the other way. Okay, well that one's a 117. That's interesting. All right, well, it's a 299 going from, let me turn this so north is up. It's 299 going from right to left, and it's somewhere between 121 and 119. I'm not sure which number to take. I guess the 119 one looks really spot on, doesn't it? I was going to say 121 before, but I'm glad I measured it again. So this has it has a 911 alignment. So it does make sense that this would be Rigel. Okay, we're going to have to come back and do some more work here, but I want to get back to some more things about Rigel. Okay, so this is my first time looking at this. So I'm just right with you. I have studied some astronomy, and I do have a lot of science, but I'm just looking at this, for the first time along with you. There are some dates to be aware of which may matter. So here we have a 12/12 culminating at midnight, which is a 12/12/12 on December 12th. And at 9 p.m. on January 24th, Rigel is most visible in winter evenings in the northern hemisphere. I don't know how they quantify that, but they want you to see those dates, so I thought I would bring those to your attention. Now, October 6th, which is our new discovery of 9/11 equivalent through 2 degrees of calendar conversion. I guess that, 2 degrees, it makes a triplet. It makes a trinity of dates. It makes a 9/11, a 9/23, and an October 3rd. So you can kind of see why they would go 3, and it would be like the completion, or a holy number for them. I just want to. This is the 279th day with 86 days remaining. Now look back here at Rigel. we have a lot of 79s and 86s in the properties. Now, I feel like these are all just made up numbers. Not saying that the star really isn't there. I can't, of course, you know, it would be arrogant for me to speculate on that. I don't fly, and I don't have my own spaceship yet, even though I keep asking for the universe to bring me one. They say, you know, maybe I'll get one. Let's see here. But there's another 79 here. Let me show you. So Rigel is 79 times the size of the radius of the sun. They say it's 218,000 times as luminous as the sun. This roots to 29, which is another one of their favorite codes for 9/11, because it's a 9 and a 2 at the same time, which makes a 9 and an 11. Here's 109. This is a number by itself, but upside down it's a 106, which is 10, 6, the 79th day. So here's another use of the 218 number, and this number we've also seen as in August 11th is when they brought the Nefertiti discovery out, even though it didn't make any sense that it should take that long. Well, I did a video on the Nefertiti numbers, and so the way to access that is to send me, tell me in the comments that you've sent me your email by my email, which is dandelionsong@gmail.com, observing the misspellings and keeping it probably lowercase. And then I will decide whether you could, there's personal stories, that's why those are unlisted. I'll decide whether you can see that. Usually people decide for themselves. Here's another 74, having to do with the alignment that we just saw with this map that's in New York City. So it is derived, the name Rigel is derived, it was first recorded in the Alphonsine tables. It's derived from the Arabic name, here it is, and it means the left foot of Yaza. Yaza is the proper name of the Orion figure. So that's his name. I didn't know that all this time, did you? But and as long as we're talking about the left foot, I wanted to give a shout out to Timothy Barger, who has quite a few great videos on, specializes in Hebrew and some other ancient Paleo Hebrew languages and gematria and meanings. And he recently showed in one of his most recent videos, and I'll try to link it, put it in the description box, the connection between Pisces, fish, and foot, and it's quite exciting to make a connection like that. Maybe, you know, maybe other people have found this, but when you're breaking this code apart, this is very useful to tie the fish to the foot, and to tie it through etymology is pretty exciting because it starts to talk about the fish-footed people, and we know that the Vatican, you know, they're the fish-hatted people, and the Dogon say that their people came, their gods came out of the ocean, so they would have been fish-footed. Now, a mermaid is also fish-footed, and I would love to have a few days to do a mermaid video, because Melusine is the mermaid depicted in Starbucks, and she was viewed by 30 people during her time, and it was written down as fact, not fiction, that she shapeshifted into a flying amphibious dragon in front of 30 or so witnesses who were, you know, government basically at the time, and her husband. And she was very mad, and according to some sources, she delivered a threat to the descendants of her husband, having to do with people who walk underneath her sign. Well, I'm going to tell you, a lot of people walk underneath her sign these days, and a lot of people drink this water. And I just think that we need to be careful. I do sometimes shop there, if in a pinch, and I really would love to bring you that. Speaking of fish-footed, also in Paris I found a mermaid written there, and I haven't gotten to it yet. It's amazing that the very important videos I haven't gotten to, so I hope we have time for all this. So it does equal, excuse me, this name, Joshua, you know, what if this is Joshua? I'm humble enough to realize that that's what this could be. Who knows? Who knows what they're talking about? I don't know. Okay, so it has to do with water, bringing up fish-footed, and the waters of the heavens, and the sky goddess, Inanna, Ishtar, Diana, Artemis, having to do with water and parthenogenesis and the ancient sky goddesses, with fish and ichthys in their symbolism. It equals iPhone. I think people shouldn't use those. I think these are dangerous. I think they have kill switches in them that are, they probably would find another way, but I think they can hurt you with these. I think you want to use a cheapy phone that they probably can't hurt you through. I'm not saying that's for sure safer, but little aside there. Matches satanic, matches the one. Can't say that all matches Pharaoh. This one to me kind of makes sense. You can't say that all these really are, you know, equivalents. There's dark and light mixed in here. Matches Hiram Abiff. I think there's 2 F's in this. That probably doesn't work. Looks like it matches killer. Clown is a very important symbolism in our world, and it does have a 101 3 in it. I'm going to try to remember this. We have so many clown. One of our safety tips in our household is if there's a clown on the box or a clown on the label, do not have anything to do with it, or a clown on the sign, or any clowns. Don't do it. That's your warning sign. Bohemian, ABC News. So you can see that even if you have never heard of this name, the insiders seem to have heard of this name. They name everything after it. Every time I look something up, it's not in their gematria base. I need to have my very own. Maybe somebody can help. I want to have my very own of one of these gematria calculators and maybe put it on my blog. I'm not sure. But that way I can have my library in here. Because some of these libraries where people misspell things is not useful to me. I mean, I might come and check it, but I'd like to have my own. That'd be nice, wouldn't it? A quick look at the Alphonsine tablets, tables, where the name came from. 1-1. Looking at those dates. All right, well, I'm here on October 6th, things that happen in history, and this caught my eye. American Revolutionary War, Henry Clinton leads British forces to the capture of Continental Army Hudson River defenses, and that happened on this day. Usually you can look for these years that have interesting numbers in them, but the Hudson River came up recently because looking back in the history of October 1st, which was the shooting yesterday, there is a 9/11 connection. Let me go there. So there's a 9/11 connection having to do with the George Washington Bridge, which goes over the Hudson. But before we get there, let's just notice that this is the 274th day, and this shooting happened in Oregon, which has 74 as its simple gematria, and 444, which is a kill number in its English gematria. So let's come down here and see if I can remember the year. It was, here it is, the George Washington Bridge, and it connects New Jersey and New York. Now, this is kind of in the area where we just were. See? 40 and 70, it's close to the 74 mark. That's kind of almost where we just were. Well, the things I noticed about this bridge, I just taken a look at this yesterday, is that 106 million vehicles cross this every year, and that is your 10-6 pointer for the date of 10-6, and it calls your attention to notice these things. But also over here, this is kind of suspicious here, the 14 and the 14, because it's such an important number having to do with the Twin Towers and 9/11. These 14s are very important. 9 5s are slave numbers, 5 9s are slave numbers. It has 14 lanes. It's basically a slave derivative from 95. There's the gematria having to do with slaves. They usually code 9-5 and 5-9 separately for the race, which is repulsive. Then this bridge is 119 feet wide, and it has another 119 number embedded in it. Let me see if I can show you this. So let's take a look at it. Oh, it looks like there's a toll to go across it. That's probably important too. No, look. Oh my gosh, this is dark magic. I'm sorry to tell you, you probably know already that our economy, our money system is a religion. It's a money religion, and it has to do with dark magic. Well, anyway, I'll tell you about these 75s another time. I've talked about it in some videos, but okay, so here's where the bridge is. And I want to show you this in how it connects to Central Park. Hold on. Okay, well, for one thing, it's looks like a freeway 9. I would say interstate. I don't know what these codes are for these colors, if that means it's an interstate, but it does go from New Jersey to New York, so probably interstate. Interstate 9, I-9, which is a 99, and then it's 0.66 miles between these upright parts of it. The heading is very close. It's very close to 106. So I'm not sure, it's hard to get a really, sometimes you have to pull a heading out quite a ways before you get a really accurate measurement on it. So I'm not sure what they meant going the other way, but going from New York, going from the island, oh, I guess that's New Jersey, hold on. I don't know. Going from east to west, I guess is what I'm going to say. It says in Wiki this is between two states. So this must be New Jersey right here. I'm not familiar with this territory, so if I offend you with my unfamiliarity, sorry. Okay, well, anyway, this is 284, and this 84 has a lot to do with the Pope numbers, but also Obama, because this is his birthday, 84, and he has a lot of 48 and 84 numbers. So, and his birth looks like it was well planned. If you study some of these numbers that like the JFK numbers, it looks like his Obama's birth was well planned, and that his birthday ties in with so many things. Well, when I first saw this, the George Washington Bridge in proximity to Central Park here, which has Central Park equals 911 in its gematria, and this corner of it is a 119 heading, which is going to also be the same as this Lincoln Tunnel. It's going to be the same. I had thought, oh well, that's probably another parallel. Now I see it's not quite a parallel. It does look like it's close to either 104 or 106. So I'm not sure, because it's so short, it's hard for me to know for sure exactly what they're aiming for right there. So I wanted to tell you about this because it has to do with October 1st, which is a 1001, and that does tie into, goes all the way back to the moment where in the Simpsons episode where the Rigellian alien says, oh, our languages are actually, by some coincidence, our languages are the same. This bridge also was the longest main bridge span in the world, which now we know is 0.66 miles, until Golden Gate in 1937, and that's a very interesting bridge too. So it just occurred to me to maybe take a look at just what they call the anagrams, where you switch these around, the letters, so to see how Rigellian matches up with English and which letters are left over. So that's a 27 that's left over. Over here we have an A left over, an L, an I, and an R. So this is 18, and 9. This is a 918. This is a number that we saw at the beginning and the end of the first matrix number a lot, and it has some very interesting dates and anti-dates and second degree derivatives of those things. Okay, so then here we have a 13. This is LA, And this is a pretty classic 13 right here. And then this is also a 27. So I don't know if you feel like you can cancel out 27s or not. But I don't know. I'm kind of working on new, just moving intuitively to new decoding methods, new algorithms. Now, this also does equal, probably somebody spotted this, liar. And this equals, just make sure I did this right. Yeah, that's a 27. Okay. So this equals, this is the, this 918 is the antidate by second derivative. I'm going to say, I don't know if I'm going to show it to you in this video, of the 216 date, which is the Baphomet number. It's the BAF because it's 216 is BAF, it's Baphomet, and it's also February 16th, and it's the diameter of time for the zodiac age. So that's some of the symbolism of this, and this might be, you know, keep it a secret. I'm not sure what they're trying to say here. But over here, this equals 40, which is my number for us. And I don't have any explanation for why that equals liar, unless they're talking about, you know, them being us, or unless they're talking about, like, you know, the Freemasons being the 40, you know, to the point where maybe because 40 comes up in the coordinates of where the Philadelphia train wreck was, and so if they're talking about, I had thought they were talking about the U.S. coming off the rails, or the, you know, next to the river of awareness, that's the Delaware in Philadelphia, which is phi squared, right? And that's the body of Christ type idea. So I had thought they were talking about the people there, but we also need to possibly just keep in mind that they could be talking about the Freemasons. That the Freemasons, you know, if you read, I've been reading the book to you, bringing you Back to the Books of American Destiny, showing you that the Freemasons had an idea of democracy and freedom. You know, it seemed like it was a really pretty true-hearted thing that they were trying to build, and then it got very corrupted, and maybe this Philadelphia train wreck has something to do with the train wreck that the U.S. has become. It's not anything like it was meant to be. That would be a very interesting manifestation. So, and that you know, if they're talking about that, that would mean that the Freemasons alive today, who were supposed to create this creation of freedom, they have come off the tracks, and that possibly they are liars. I don't know. I just felt like pulling these words apart. All right. I hope you guys learned something. I learned something. Talk to you soon.